Hello, and welcome to the walkthrough for Disability Culture Lab's Disability Rising Fellowship application. Today, I will explain the different parts of the application process and hopefully answer any questions you may have. Information on the fellowship, as well as the link to apply, can be found on our website at tinyurl.com/disabilityrising25. You can also go directly to the application form by going to tinyurl.com/disabilityrising. As a brief overview, for this inaugural year of the fellowship, we are searching for 9 multiply marginalized disabled leaders who are looking to expand and amplify their public voices and learn how to make change across the disability justice, disability rights, and social justice cultural and movement landscapes. Additionally, we are aiming for at least 3 of our fellows to be from the U.S. South. The fellowship will begin in the fall of 2025 and include a stipend, media coaching, social media training, mentorship, and other hands-on support from September until July of 2026. Answers to some frequently asked questions can be found linked in the description at the beginning of the application Google form. As a reminder, this application is due by August 22nd, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On this first page, you will find the brief overview of the application. You must sign in to your email account to fill out the form, as well as enter your email on the first page. Once you are done, click the Next button at the bottom. In this first section, you will provide the following general information: your full name, the name you prefer to be called if it's different from your full name, pronouns if you're comfortable sharing them, your email address, your phone number for voice calls or text, your mailing address, and finally, your preferred method of contact, which can be either email, phone call, text message, or a different mode that you can enter into the form by selecting the other option and typing in your answer. Once you have completed this page, click Next at the bottom to go to page 3. Our second section involves questions about your identity and geography, which are important as we think about building a diverse, representative cohort of fellows. First, do you identify as a disabled person? As a reminder, this fellowship is for disabled leaders to build their voices and learn how to make change. The second question is optional and asks how you would describe your disability or disabled identity. You can say as much or as little as you would like here. The next question is also optional and asks whether you identify as part of any other historically marginalized communities other than your disabled identity, and some examples of what we mean by these identities are Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, LGBTQIA+ communities, and immigrant communities. This list is not exhaustive, and again, in this question, you can write as much or as little as you want. Next, we ask whether you are based in the United States. Finally, this section asks whether you currently live or work in the U.S. South, and your answer will determine what question pops up next. If you answer yes or unsure for this question, page 4 on the form will then ask you what state or states you are referring to when you say that you live or work in the U.S. South. Enter in your answer, and then click Next, which will bring you to page 5. Alternatively, if you answer no, you will automatically skip to page 5 on the form once you click Next at the bottom. Page 5 then asks you whether you are connected to or doing work in the U.S. South, and for that you can answer yes or no. Similarly, if you click yes, page 6 on the form will ask you what work you are connected to or involved in the U.S. South. You can answer in the text box provided, and you can write as much as you think would be helpful, and click Next when you are done. If you click No, you will automatically skip to the next section on page 7. Page 7 is the next section, which is longer and asks more detailed questions about who you are as a person and advocate. All of these questions are required. The first question asks for a short personal bio of under 150 words. The next questions are all open-ended and don't have word limits. First, we ask that you tell us about your work or leadership in disability justice, rights, or social justice work, either in movement or cultural spaces. Then, the next question asks what issues you focus on in your work and how you bring a disability lens to those issues. Next, why are you interested in this fellowship in particular, and what do you hope to gain from being a Disability Rising Fellow? Next, how do you envision using media and storytelling to shift the disability narrative? Next, what big idea or ideas would you share with the world if you had a bigger microphone or stage? And finally, the last question reads, every form of oppression is disabling, but that story is often left out of media portrayals of disability. We'd like to change that. How has your work helped show this reality? Or how would you like to show or tell the story if you had access to more resources? Lived or professional experience is welcome. We encourage you to be specific and to take your time with these questions. Once you are finished, click Next at the bottom to proceed to Section 4 on page 8. In this next section are some questions about your current media experience and public presence. The first question is required and asks that you please provide a link to your current LinkedIn profile page. The next question is optional and asks that you share any public links to your work, which could include social media handles, op-eds, or websites. The next question is required and asks whether you have participated in media or public speaking programs before. Finally, the last question is required and asks whether you are interested in increasing your public profile in service to the cultural change you want to see in the world. What would you do if you had a bigger metaphorical megaphone and access to more resources? Once you are finished, click Next at the bottom to proceed to Section 5 on page 9. Next, we will move into some logistical questions about the timing of the fellowship and your availability. This section will also ask about your access needs. All questions in this section are required. First, can you commit to the following times and dates, which are all from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? October 6th, 8th, 14th, and 15th, October 20th, 22nd, 27th, and 29th, and then November 3rd, 5th, 17th, and 19th. Next, can you commit to monthly cohort training sessions every second Wednesday, 12 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from January to June 2026? Next, would you be interested in or available for an optional in-person media training in March of 2026? Next, what access needs or accommodations would support your full participation? For this question, we encourage as much detail as possible so we can best know how to support you in the event that you are selected for our cohort. Finally, we would like to know whether you already know of conflicts in your life, such as work or caregiving. If you click yes or unsure, then clicking Next at the bottom of the page will bring you to page 10, which asks you to please provide as much information as possible about your anticipated conflicts, such as times, dates, and the hours per week you may work or caretake. If you click No to the anticipated conflicts question, then the next page will take you to Section 6, the final section. The final section includes an optional question where you can enter anything you would like us to know when we are reviewing your application, and a required question asking how you heard about this fellowship. Once you have entered your answers, you can click Next at the bottom. The last section is a submission checklist and asks you to confirm that you have done all of the following: answered all questions, included any public work links if relevant, and shared any and all of your access needs. Please check each box once you have completed everything on the list. You can go back through your answers by clicking the back button at the bottom. Once you are finished, return to this final page and click Submit. A copy of your responses will be emailed to the email address you provided. After reviewing applications, we will invite a small group of finalists for interviews. These interviews will be held virtually, and we will offer CART and ASL upon request. We'll also do our best to schedule interviews around access needs and availability. If you're selected for an interview, you'll receive more details about what to expect, and you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions before or during the call. This wraps up our walkthrough of the Disability Rising Fellowship application form. Hopefully, this answers any questions you may have, but you're also welcome to email hello@disabilityculturelab.org if anything else comes up for you. We are so excited to review your application, and we'll be sending out decisions in the coming weeks.